We're hopefully going to be that, one-stop podcast where they know they're going to come on and hear real information, not just the fluffy surface chit-chat. It's actual real life scenarios and real life feelings and stories and experiences and solutions as well. Welcome back to another episode on the Lessons podcast. We are super excited to have one of our good friends and actually our business partner, Levi Walz, on today. So he's got lots of things to talk about, obviously his biggest life lesson. I want to ask how you're going this week though, Steve.
I'm amazing. Yep. I am really looking forward to this conversation. Levi, how are you feeling, mate? You feeling comfortable?
Yeah, feeling good. It's always good to catch up.
I've actually known Levi for about 10 years now, but you two have known each other a lot longer.
Yep, he's my longest relationship so far.
Ooh.
Still going strong?
I'm still going strong.
Is it
about our ups and downs.
Yeah.
15, 20 years?
Yeah, I mean 16. Yeah.
It's actually our 10-year anniversary this year too, Ash.
It is. You're this week and you're going
I don't
away.
think you've got me anything for our 10-year.
Oh, boys. Anyways, let's move on to the podcast because I know we have a lot to talk about. Now, on social media, which you've only just gotten into social media the last year, congratulations. He is now on Instagram, guys. You describe yourself as the mind and body coach. Tell us what you actually do.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a mind-body specialist. So in my words, I help people achieve their health potential by aligning their mind, body and emotions. So, through my history working as a nutritionist, naturopath, personal trainer, ACT therapist, NLP master, etc., I've just realized how much people's emotions and their mindset affects their health, but then also like their nutrition and their health and their body affects their emotions and mindset. And it's like this little holistic picture, you know what I mean? And that's what I help people do. It's like a little investigator where I come in and help you find what's the main cause of your problem. It could be you've got a nutritional deficiency that's making it really hard for you to, your mood to be stable. And that's why you're feeling that. Or it could be that there's this story that's been happening since you're 7 that you can't get over is causing these problems, which is now, making you not be able to digest your food, which is causing these other health problems. It's sort of like a little health investigator.
It's like a puzzle that you're piecing all the pieces together to complete
That's how
the
I
puzzle
see it.
for everyone.
There's definitely been more and more movement towards, there was once upon a time where the whole movement was all about genetics, but really now these days they're thinking it's more epigenetics and how your external environment affects your internal environment. Is that how you sort of more see it these days?
Yeah, I'm. You can't get away from your genetics. You can't change those things, but we can turn genes on and off via your nutrition. You can turn them on and off via your thoughts, via your emotions, and that affects. So nurture and nature. They really are both. And I think the way the world's going, back even 10 years ago, you're almost seen a bit nutty if you dared say that, okay, well, your emotions are causing this health problem. It's always, no, it has to be something very specifically
scientific,
nutritional, and because you can't really measure it, because how do you know what someone's feeling all the time? You can ask them, but many times they won't tell you and it won't be accurate. So I think the next 10 years is really exciting in regards to helping people sort through some real stuff,
Definitely.
as it becomes more acceptable.
And you obviously listed a long list of qualifications. So you've worked for many years, close to 20 years in the health space. What drove you to be where you are today, to doing exactly what you're doing now, helping people with your mind-body specialist qualifications and experience?
That's a good question. What drove me? I think the one thing that I've always done since I was little was I just do what I want, and I'd go for what I'm passionate with. And for so long, I didn't know. I would be like, oh, I want to do that. And then I'd be like, oh, I hate that. Oh, I want to do that. And I'd just go for it, do it, realize it wasn't me. And I think if I look back to my childhood, the thing that was so different about my family was, they were really emotionally blocked up horribly, but we were on the organic train in the 80s, we were on the health train. I was eating alfalfa sprouts for lunch. People would have, just those standard pizzas or whatever. And I'd have like a sandwich that was like, I don't know, like huge, this big, full of just,
you still
avocados.
Have those. You still have those today. Every time we go over your house.
But you get to lunch and people would be like, "What's that?" And it was that was just who we were. And I feel like that had to have influenced my direction back into getting into health. But when I first started PT, it was really just, I think I'll be good at that. I'm going to do it. And so I just did it. And I think I've told you this many times, but when I started, I was that, I guess, emotionally backward country boy. So I was just training people till they would die. I mean, I was Steve's first PT in 2004, and luckily for him, by that time, I'd become a little bit more balanced. But when I first started, I was just do what I say.
Smash and bash.
Stop whinging. Yeah, I don't want to hear it. Just,
no excuses.
Yeah, train like I do, and you'll get results. And if you can't, then get out of here. That was me.
No
and
compassion.
Very little, because I had no compassion for myself. I had I don't think I even felt an emotion up until that point, really. I obviously was feeling them, but I wasn't aware of them.
And when you're not connected with yourself and grounded with yourself, there's no way you can connect with other people on a deep level and understand what they're going through, or at least attempt to. Yeah,
I have female clients crying, and I'd do the tap on the back, but in my head I'm like, what are you doing? Why? Yep. And now when I look back at that, I'm like, wow, you were a horrible PT.
The old smash and bash, definitely. There's a few of those around.
Yeah.
So tell us what type of training have you done to get to where you are today? Because you said you're a naturopath, you're a nutritionist, you're a personal trainer. What have you done to get here? Okay.
Well, obviously, personal training was the first step in the
health
industry. Yeah. And really, I mean, the only reason I moved past that, I guess, was just getting frustrated that clients weren't getting results. I got some good results, but too many people would either quit or just stay in the same place, do the same thing. And so after spending a few years blaming them, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta be better. So that's when I became a nutritionist and naturopath. So I spent 4 years studying that, and that's when I became I get into things where I'm really into it, and that's just what everything is. And it was just metabolic pathways. Like every client that would come in, I'd break everything down. I'd be like, okay, it's because they've got this magnesium and zinc deficiency. Okay, let's hammer that. And okay, your hormones are a little bit out of balance. I'll balance that. And they used to, my clients used to be taking 10 supplements at a time. The ones that wouldn't follow the dietary changes. And that really improved things. I was like, okay, I can see now that I can get people's blood sugar back in range that are still eating crap. I can do this. Now they have to spend a lot of money, and if they want to keep doing this, it's really not smart. But I have some greater knowledge and ability to help them now, I suppose. But then it was like, well, it's still not enough. Like they're still doing this. Like these are smart people, and they're still doing the same shit over and over, and they want to change, and they're whinging to me every week that they want to change, but they never change. And that's what I was like, okay, well, I got to get better. And that's when I started researching habits. And that's when I did my NLP masters. And I wanted to know, could I become a habit modification specialist? Could I make sure that I knew how, if someone was struggling themselves to keep repeating the same things, could I be the person to let them in on that, And I guess that was at the time I was at that stage when we got to Fit Kids, and that's when the studies, knowing that an obese 2-year-old has a 75% chance of being an obese adult, it's like, well, habits are huge. And the person you're around for those first years, you're going to pick up a lot. And even now as a dad, my Neve's just 11 months, but I'm already seeing her pick up on so many things that I do. And, it's crazy how quickly they do. It's
exciting and scary. You really are more awake and conscious when you become a parent.
Yeah. You want to be your best version by far. Hey.
What are some of the things you picked up with your parents?
Me? Let's say initially, especially the thing I fight against the most, or the thing that I had to learn was just, you're just not allowed to express yourself. In our family, if you were upset or etc., no one talked about it. You just internalize it, push it back down. If you're from the country, it's all good.
Yep.
Toughen up.
Boys don't cry. Boys don't show emotions. That's why I love what you're doing with Taj so much. It's touching. If I think about, well, what held me back so much and what I'm so proud of in developing, he's getting that from You know, he was at his age now. He was more advanced than me at 23.
Wow.
He's very advanced with his emotions.
Yeah.
Everything is, it's okay to cry, mummy.
And obviously you're very passionate about nutrition and food, and you obviously got that from your parents as well. You grew your own food as a family, is that right?
Yeah, we were farmers. I mean, we like grew the standard, you know, like wheat, sorghum. We had cattle, so it wasn't overly healthy. But it was from my brother. He got very, very sick as a baby,
Right.
and so my parents had to figure out what it was, and it was, you know, one of their greatest things. Instead of just doing what a lot of parents doing, going, it must got nothing to do with diet. They changed everything. So we went like completely gluten free back in like 1985.
Wow.
You know, like
Wow.
just changing things, and it probably saved his life. You know, which is great for them. Yeah,
Got to have a inspiration for you to continue to learn more and help more people.
That early on, knowing that what you eat can change your health is pretty. You know, I've had 60-year-old clients that still don't believe. You know, like, what do you mean this eating this in the morning is not going to be? It's got to do with my diabetes. You're like, oh god. So seeing how what you can eat can change your entire life, that's definitely one of the most powerful things I've ever learned.
So what kind of people do you work with now?
Well, my main people that I work with right now is obviously the women in the Ashy squad. You know, I feel like that's my main passion, is to work with you and Steve and to help these women, you know, be their best or healthiest version. This year, I've also got back into running my seminars, and you know, I guess I felt like at the end of last year, you know, when you sit back and what are you missing? What do you love to do? And I just love working with people. So I've started running my own, you know, doing the Eating Our Emotions course at the moment.
Which is face-to-face.
Face-to-face, and I just get so much from it. The girls' getaway retreats that we do. Just, you know, I just love helping people, and online's great, and you get that feedback where they message you. But you know, when someone, you can see it and you can feel it. And that connection is just so much stronger in a group.
And also the ability to actually make change, like getting someone to go all in, focus for 2 days, or immerse themselves.
I'd love that for everyone that started our program to do like a 2-day intensive.
Yeah.
But it feels like we have to, you know, because if you give them too much, they'll overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But if you give them don't give them enough, then it feels like it's a 6-week journey just to get to the basics. But if we could start with you know, like the girls on the getaway. Like I got a beautiful message from Simone this morning, just like, hey, just touching base. You've completely changed my life. Can't believe, you know, like just those little things, and we get them daily. You know, like that's why I love what we do and what I do. It makes
those weekends that you guys do. I mean, I participate a little bit, but you guys pretty much do 90% of it. The feedback from those things are life changing. So the seminars that you guys are running and the things that you're doing in that time must be incredible.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's life-changing, and like you said, the feedback we get is so awesome. But I agree with you. It's that face-to-face connection, because I spend a lot of time online in our forum, on Instagram, on Snapchat, educating and talking, but that face-to-face connection, when you can really work with them so closely, and it also gives them a safe space to open up and be vulnerable and talk about what's really going inside. Because when you first meet someone and you're chatting online, it is a bit surface level. They don't really get deep, but once they get deep and open up, that's when you can really make a big difference.
100%, I agree.
So with how many people you've worked with, we always like to ask, what is your biggest lesson working with so many people in the health and fitness and wellness space? What's your number one lesson you've learned from working with them?
This has been a lot, but the biggest lesson I've learned from dealing with so many people is just that our emotional reaction to our thoughts determines our health. And it's not just our mental health, but it's our physical health too. The biggest lesson, and that was what changed my life forever, was just noticing client after client after client, especially when I was doing homeopathy consultations. They would come in and we'd go through it and we'd clear out. And these consultations in homeopathy can take up to 3 hours. And so you get deep, and you're taught how to learn to brush off the surface stuff and just wait. Sometimes I'll wait for 10 minutes without saying a word, and they would just get awkward, and they'd say something, and I'd be like, "Nah, that's not it."
Can you explain a little bit on what the practice like?
Well, I try and in my practice of working with people, the sooner I can get to the underlying symptom, or the cause, not just what's happening here, because I know that mindset and emotions affect your body, and your nutrition affects your body. Your body can affect your emotions. So I'm just trying to get a pattern, and I want to help someone take away those symptoms a little bit, but almost not too much, because if I take away all the symptoms immediately, then they don't work on the cause and they never actually change. I learned that really early on. Actually early on, the first thing was don't even work on symptoms as a naturopath. There's something called a healing crisis, where you work on someone and normally they get this massive reaction. And that used to work back in the day, but these days people don't want that. So if you don't work on their symptoms and they still feel shit for weeks, months, they're going to not come back, So then there's this thing, well, okay, I can't work on the cause always. I've got to help you a little bit. But if I take away everything, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm fine. And then you just see them come back 2 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later. Yep. And so...
Same issue.
Yeah. And what I've found is that everyone's perception of themselves and the stories that go on in their head and the thoughts that are happening all the time. When I first started this, I thought I was the only one that had this voice that would just be like, God, how can you treat this person? They're a successful millionaire, lawyer, etc. What are they coming for you? And then, you do something, you just say, help them massively. They'd say, oh, you've saved my life, or da-da-da-da. And you get this over and over and you start to build up a bit of confidence. But constantly I'll be like, man, I just put myself down all the time. And maybe that's why I was couldn't feel anything in PT as well, and couldn't empathize with people, because I was just like not aware of it really. I didn't even know this was happening. I just knew that I had these crazy thoughts. And then everyone that came in year after year, they'd have these thoughts they'd be amazing people, and they'd just have these crappy opinions of themselves, and that would drive behavior that would keep them in the same place. And the number one lesson, or the thing I wish I could just help everyone on earth know, is that how the thoughts that you're having, that little voice that doesn't shut up, everybody has that voice. Everybody. And everybody, we're naturally designed and wired for survival and to stop ourselves from dying virtually. And anything that is potentially going to affect our, level in society, our income, our relationship, how people view us, that's seen as an attack on our survival, a threat. Yeah. And we'll avoid that and
create a story to make it
make it okay. And I think you've asked me this before. It's why do people do this? Why do we put ourselves down so much? And the reason is it's again, in my opinion, it's that based on this survival aspect, putting ourselves down is a great way. It's a strategy that our brain comes up with to make ourselves better. Yeah, we'd never say this to others. We'd never put anyone else down, but we put ourselves down, and it's a way that our brain thinks is the best way to make us go, well, I'm going to improve that. And sometimes we come up with, or many times the strategies we come up with are not overly the best strategies to make us feel happy and healthy and to, to feel less stressed.
What's an example of that? Some of the negative ways that...
Oh, let's say if we go to eating, it's... I've just overeaten, I've had a binge, which I would never ever let anyone say the word binge. It's always feast, because it's a positive way to do what we're designed to do. When you have food, it releases dopamine and serotonin if it's high sugar into your brain, and it makes you feel good. And when you feel good and it drives you there, your brain goes, do more of that, So when we go into that restriction mindset, and so the most common thing for I'd say a female, but everyone in that diet space is, when I stuff up, I put myself down, I don't ever do this. God, you're so ugly, you're so fat, you're so useless, you can't stick to anything. And we think that is going to help us be better. You wake up, tomorrow you're going to do this. But that means then today you can eat whatever you like, and you wake up, you feel shit, and then you miss your session, you press snooze, and immediately from that second on, God, you're lazy, God, you're worthless, God, you're this. You never change. And if we just knew that, it's a good strategy, because it does help people improve, feeling bad. Like I said before, when you've got a symptom, when you've got a headache, if Panadol doesn't work, you'll come to someone like me. And if I can help remove that, you're happy. But the headache will keep coming back if you don't take that supplement or you don't do that, you know? So we'll avoid pain until it's gone. With the diet and the binging, it's and you'll see it in squad and especially with the girls' weekends, when people start to learn how to accept the thoughts and just know that they're not real, they're not them, they're their ability to observe those thoughts and sit back and go, I'm not that. I'm feeling worthless, but I'm also very worthy. I'm lazy, but I'm also very motivated. And when they learn to accept themselves at a greater level and just be okay with, then it's crazy. I mean, I reckon, what do you reckon? 99% of the girls that when we say, when you're feeling great, when you've got up and you've exercised well and you're eating well and your mindset's great, do you want to do more of that? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what happens on the day when, you've woke up and you're feeling overweight and crappy, and do you want to go home and eat a healthy dinner and exercise? And they're like, nah, I just want to get to Netflix and chocolate,
I would say that that's probably my number one thing, that like my baseline, and like waking up in the morning and starting the day off on a positive note is one of the most important things that we can do. And I think you and me are we
So
on
aligned
with that. Like we juggle life to make sure that each person gets that.
Yes.
Because if you don't get that start to the day, it just sets you off on the wrong foot.
100%. It's so important. Whether that's walking, exercises, meditating, getting in fresh air, getting in nature. Definitely.
Like you this morning, you went on 2 walks before you even started the day this morning.
I felt fantastic getting 10,000 steps before 9 a.m.
Wow.
I was celebrating. Couldn't wait to tell you, Levi. How many are you on?
And then we tagged, and then I went off.
Yeah,
mine. So,
juggling parenthood.
And you think, look at what not most people get up and I want to exercise in the morning, but they're choosing an exercise they don't like, and so immediately their brain wakes up and they go, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah. 2, they're normally eating poorly or they're highly stressed. Maybe even, I feel like lack of energy these days is definitely got to do with your stress level, but also like your focus. If you're not looking forward to what you're doing and you've got no passion, it's hard to have energy.
No inspired energy.
Yeah, you wake up and you're feeling crap, and you're going to do something that you don't want to do really, but because you think that you're supposed to, and you have to do that to get a result because everyone's told you. Yep. So then you hit the snooze button, and then immediately the button it's already been like, God, we have to do this crappy exercise, and then, you snoozed in. God, you're so lazy. People are starting the very start of their day. No wonder they wake up, and then they can't move without a whole lot of stimulants, and they're putting themselves on the back foot.
Yeah, and what you focus on is what you feel. So if you're going to start your day like that
every
and focus
day,
on it, your whole day is going to... And it's like that law of attraction too. When you start to think negative, I feel like lots of other things start happening. When you talk about thoughts, I love the way you've worded all of that, because I definitely have that little voice. I feel like these days I'm a lot better at catching it. Do you find that little voice still pops in and says, oh, Levi, you lazy bastard, but then you're very quick at catching it?
Yeah, I use an example. I used to be the biggest road rager. Yeah. Like,
really?
Oh my God. I used to, if anyone
went... You're always late to everything?
You'd think that'd make me early, hey, but if someone I would go out of my way. If someone cut me off or anything, and maybe it was because my old car, you remember, it was pretty poor. I didn't have aircon, and I used to, anytime stopping, I'd be like, God, I can't stop because I sweat. And so I would drive around in front of them. I'd drive slow, and I'd make sure I'd drive next to another car so they couldn't get around. If they tried to, I'd speed up. On the highway, I could spend a whole hour just fucking someone over. Then just, once you're angry, you know? And you can't change that. But over years of building empathy, understanding why someone might be late, why they're not, it doesn't even trigger me. I almost immediately, my initial response is, I hope they're okay. Like normally if they're speeding past me or they're driving like, I haven't felt like I've triggered that. Yeah. But in saying that, like yesterday, I was speaking to you and I'm like, I'm feeling so stressed today. Yeah. I feel it. Like, and the voice is there, like, you're not going to get this done. Why did you leave it so long, etc. And, that's why I like to teach people how to find a place in their body that they, it's like a cue where, for me, if I'm not speaking up, I get it in my throat,
Yeah, me too.
When I'm anxious, it's in my stomach. Some people feel it in their pulse in their hand or their
sweating.
Yeah, that's right. I get it in my stomach, like I need to eat, or it's like, God, but I can't eat. And so it's when I feel that, it's just like this step to sit back.
Yeah.
And so like when I spoke to you, hopefully I was like, yeah, he's still like one of my partner. She sometimes gets frustrated that I'm able to be so calm in stressful situations, and it's just that I've been able to identify that I'm feeling stressed, step back and go, wow, I'm feeling really anxious at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh. And I just sit with it and breathe with it.
But that takes practice, doesn't it?
Oh, it's taken years. And,
years,
you know, like even now I like to say that I catch it early. Sometimes I can get triggered and it'll take me hours, you know, and but the good thing now is I believe in the process and I know it so much that when I catch myself, I just laugh at it and I'm like, you know, like, okay, yeah.
I think the power in knowing that it will pass, like...
And knowing
it's going to go.
That your story is just a story and you aren't that story.
Yep.
Like sometimes it's so easy to, I'm lazy, you know, I'm that lazy, useless, and that's who you fuse with, you know. It becomes a personal belief.
Yeah.
And
your
once it
identity
becomes a belief, it's your identity, and then that's who you are. I mean, your story with your stepdad and being stupid, you know, like you were stupid for years, and that was if anyone questioned anything, the story would pop up, and
even constructive criticism from yourself or Steve in our workplace, I would be like, oh, I'm just dumb. He just used to tell me I was dumb. That was my story. I really have had to work over the years.
Yeah.
When it pops up, I think even Renata, who's one of our newest team members, has caught me a couple of times. She's like, don't you ever say that again. And I'm a lot quicker at catching it now, but it does take a lot of practice, and you have to be very awake and conscious and connected with yourself to know when it pops up. And it's never going to go away completely, but the more you're aware of it and the more you can catch it, you just get better at it. And being flexing a muscle, right?
Yeah, and being better with just like not trying to push it down or get away from it. Just wow, I'm feeling really anxious today. You know, what do I want to do about it?
Be okay with being uncomfortable and then figuring out how to work through it.
Yeah,
not avoiding.
When you're trying to avoid it and push it off, it makes it last for longer. You know, instead of that stress staying high, stress is just a killer to everything. Like, and it's such a cop out, but digestion, it shuts down. You know, like it goes away from those muscles. And when you're digesting, you're not absorbing what you're eating. Then over time, you know, and it's that story, like say for the traffic thing, or let's say someone abuses you or says, let's say the stupid story you're just talking about. It's like, you know, God, Levi's made me feel like God, he thinks I'm stupid. And if it was just that, and you're like, okay, cool, let it go, then your adrenals are shot up all, you know, and then you calm back down. But we're like 10 minutes later, if he ever says that to me again, you know, and it's stress high, you know, and that's constriction. And when you're stressed as well, that blood flow going away from that frontal cortex helps us, you know, be conscious and reason. And we just react. And so then 20 minutes later, we're still there. It's like, I can't wait. I'm going to tell him he's stupid. And it just plays around. And so we're stressed all day just from this. The event only happened for a second.
Back in the day, you'd say that, you know, caveman days, for example, stress was a thing that you really needed to have to get you to action, make sure you're running away from a tiger or whatever situation it was. But these days, it takes putting up your phone and reading a bad comment or there's so many ways to get stressed in our society now, and so many people are always redlining all the time.
I believe you. I believe that too. Stress just is everything. It affects sleep, digestion, skin, moods.
And when you're stressed, you don't again, if you're not overly aware of this, you just you ask someone you're stressed, and they're like, nope. No, I'm not. You know, and it's just because it's a baseline. That's what you're used to. It's like it's like saying to someone, you know, I need to pull back on your coffee. Like I do that because I'm like, hey, stimulants are the same thing as stress, but initially they're like, well, coffee doesn't affect me, and I love it, and it doesn't affect me, and I'm not addicted to it at all.
I can handle lots.
And and I'm calm, and I don't mind it, and it's
reactive.
It's because they're not aware of when you back it off, how there'll be, you know, your energy drops horribly for a little while before your body comes back up. So you think
you need it.
And that's the same as stress. You're at this level where that's just your normality. And the only time sometimes like people get it is when they go away for a holiday. You know, when people go on away on a holiday and they go, I just dropped 5 kilos and I was eating horribly. I didn't exercise. And you're like, well,
you're breathing, you're relaxing.
Yeah, that's right. Your aldosterone from your adrenals, you know, it's not holding sodium anymore. You've just dropped a whole lot of fluid.
Yeah. And
that's a great idea. Like, this is great to know that your number one problem at the moment is learning how to feel a little bit more relaxed in your normal life. What is it? Is it what you're doing? Is it the people you're around? Is it, is it the thoughts in these environments? What are the different environments? And then we can work out where you're feeling the most triggered and how you can get back to almost holiday mode in day-to-day mode.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
wow.
where do you think? I mean, this is where you've come along this journey, and you've gotten to this point in your career, and what you believe it now is true. Where do you think things are going to head in the next 10 years, 20 years? I mean, epigenetics is really coming to the front right now, but where do you think that's going to push to?
Yeah, the connection between mind and body is so important, and people are only just starting to realize it. There's still so much to be grown in gut health. Like, again, that was crazy. Like being a naturopath in, I can't imagine being a naturopath in the 70s, but even in 2005, 2010, trying to talk to people about gut health, and it was just that's got nothing to do with anything. Now we're learning that our guts, it's like a second brain, and our bacteria balance, like say for someone who's a sugar craver and who's got low energy, it could purely be because their microbiome is unbalanced, and there's more of the bacteria that are craving sugar and carbs, and and that now affects your focus for food, and that affects your mood, and it could just be about our gut. And I feel like the next 10 years, and I mean this will be my passion and push anyway, is helping connect our emotions in our body, like our mind and our body. I feel like for a little bit, probably in the whole 20th century, it was once science started to develop, all of a sudden a lot of the traditional, people started to not observe how foods make them feel anymore. It's like, I need someone to tell me what to eat. Whereas for billions of years, it's like, well, no, I don't eat that on these days. Animals have a greater understanding of what makes them feel good. Like a dog, if they're feeling sick, they'll go out and they'll eat some grass. And, we've lost that. And everything has to be 100% backed up and done by studies, which is great. It's stopped all the misinformation. But, once you've worked in that world, you realize that you can pretty much create an answer to what you want by aligning the question correctly, And so I feel like moving forward, there's going to be a greater acceptance and awareness and push for people to go, because life's pretty good these days. The only thing that makes you a crappy life really is your thoughts. The way that you're living emotionally, that's where it's at. But if you look at, you can totally screw your whole lungs over for your whole life and just get, a transplant. Our health is amazing. Even people in the low socioeconomic, and it's not like it was 50 years ago. Like life's pretty good. But if you're living in this stress in your head and everything's crap, that's where you're at. And I feel like people now, they're at this higher level where they just want to feel better about themselves. And that's going to drive the focus more just about, rather than just, I want to survive for my family or whatever. Now it's like, well, I would also like to have a good life, and I'd like to feel good more often than not. And that's going to drive people going, like just the same as when they come and see us. It's like what I've tried in the old, the ways that are working at the moment don't work. But when they start to pay attention and we get them connected with their emotions, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, this is life changing. I finally like myself.
So as I said before, we all do have that second voice that pops in and is a bit of a negative Nancy sometimes. And I think all of our listeners, when you were talking about it, they'll be like, oh yes, I know when that pops in. I know what my story is. What advice would you give to our listeners to help with their self-sabotage and that negative voice that does pop in?
Our thoughts are so powerful, they can sabotage not only our mindset, but our physical health too. So stop talking to yourself in such a bad way. Just stop it. And that's the first step you need to take. The most simple thing I can say is start to pay attention and step back. So as soon as you feel something, when you feel anger, anxiety, upset, anything, is when you feel that trigger and you're aware that you're that, just step back and observe it and just try and sit there. What we do in ACT is to, we call it defusing from that. So that story can be really strong sometimes. And there's so many ways, like we can name our stories where we can go, if it's a lazy story, it's the old lazy bastard again, and that helps us realize it quicker. We just want to learn how to be cued that, hey, we've fused to our thoughts too much as quick as possible. So the easiest way that I've learned how to do that with someone is when you identify that you're thinking something or you're feeling something, say the words, I'm a banana, 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 over and over. And immediately it normally makes people laugh because you're like,
state.
you're like, I'm not a banana. But 2 seconds ago you were like, I'm lazy. And that's all you were. You know, like you weren't, loving and caring and intelligent, and you weren't motivated. You were just lazy. And that's like for a simple thing for someone to do, that's step one. And the most important part after that, once you've managed to defuse and become aware of your thoughts, is the natural reaction is to push it down or fight it or be like, God, I don't want to feel this. It's to learn how to breathe into it. So, deep breathing, because when we breathe deeply, our body relaxes and it brings back that blood flow to our frontal cortex. And then learning just how to sit with it and learning how to be okay with, I'm feeling angry now. I'm not angry. I'm not allowed to. Some people, like the positive psychology gang is like, you're not allowed to feel angry. So it's like, no, I'm feeling good. And your brain goes, God, I feel angry. And you're like, no, I feel great. And then you've got the pessimist side of things where it's like, God, I'm so angry. And they just stick there. It's just learning how to be okay with it. And once you feel like, yeah, I'm feeling angry today. Like, yeah. Not trying to reason with it, justify it. Like, I'm angry because she said this.
We all have every emotion. Everyone, you can name every single thing and we can all associate with it. So it's being gentle on yourself, isn't it? That you're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel pissed off. You're allowed to feel everything, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then once you sit with it, then it's deciding, well, how do I want to act today? And that's derived normally by what's important to you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So like naming your story, snapping yourself out of it, and just finding ways to move through it. And I know there's so many more things that you teach because you do whole weekend courses on your emotions.
Yes, and it's hard to
wrap it up
in 30 minutes, but this is a process that can take forever, and you just constantly, it's like health. You just want to slowly just learn a little bit more about yourself. But if you're someone who's feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry regularly, if it's something that you should look into.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's like your health. You're always working on it. It's a journey. You don't eat one healthy meal and you're all of a sudden healthy. You don't do one day of self-development and naming your story, and then the next day you're all cured.
You don't need to do it again. Yeah.
It's a constant journey we're all working on, which I think is just awesome advice. So thank you so much for coming on this week's episode. We're very grateful for your time, and I know our listeners are going to get so much out of this. And for our listeners, where do they find you online? You are on Instagram and you do your courses.
Yeah, I'm now on Instagram, at the Mind Body Guy. So check me out there. And the courses, I normally just promote them on Mind Body Guy or in the squad worldwide. So if you're part of the Ashy Bind squad, or if you're not, you should definitely check that out too, because that's the greatest course and the greatest program I believe that you can do. So
it's the base.
Yeah, it's the baseline. If that's where you need to go, and then you connect through, like, get to me there.
We'll make sure we have all the details in the show notes below as well. So thank you so much, Levi, for coming in. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more of you in future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do. And also, if you're on Instagram, make sure you comment below and tell us how much you love the episode.
Or anything that you learnt. We would love to hear. We always love reading your feedback, and I know Levi will as well. So thank you once again, Levi, and we will speak to you guys in our next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Lessons Podcast. And remember, we'd love to hear from you. So please jump on over to our Lessons Podcast Insta page to tell us what you think.
Plus, if you share a screenshot of the episode on your Insta stories and tag our Lessons Podcast Instagram, you'll automatically get a 20% discount off the entire range of Hideaway bath and body products.
Don't forget to join us on the Lessons Podcast next week for another inspiring guest and fantastic life lesson. If you think you've got a lesson to share, we'd love to hear from you. Hit the link in the description box to get in touch. Bye!